Yeah, Anuradha, start.
Webinar 4, Energy Efficiency in Air Conditioning. Good afternoon all. On behalf of Women's Education Society's Srimati Manorma Mai Bundle College of Architecture, I Anuradha Bhute welcome you all in the fourth webinar under this webinar series. In the webinar, we are trying to have deliberations on some important issues in the architecture. Our first webinar was on holistic urban design for democratization of cities, and second webinar was on architecture as career option. And the third webinar was on fire safety in buildings. These webinars are all in the form of videos are available on our website as well as on YouTube channel. Viewers can leave their questions and the answers would be answered in the webinar. I would like to introduce the energy efficiency in air conditioning webinar. India is the fourth largest consumer of energy in the world after US, China and Russia. Accelerated industrialization, growing urbanization and an emerging consumer society which has led to a significant increase in energy demand. Efficient use of resources has to be the most priority in a human being's life. So it's rightly said, energy conserved is energy produced. So today's session will discuss how to conserve energy by efficiently using air conditioning. Today, we have with us Mr. Abhilash, who is a qualified engineer and an MBA. He is the key speaker of the webinar. He is Senior Executive Sales at Blue Star Limited, Nagpur. He majorly deals in ductable and VRF products in packaged and centralized air conditioning products all over Vidarbha region. I welcome you, sir. Our other panelists are Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev, Principal of SMMCA, Architect Gurunath Modak, Director at DWG, Design with Guru. Now I would like to invite our principal, Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev, a leading academician instrumental in the field of architecture education, to give her opening remarks and share her views on this topic today. I welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, Anuradha. Um, this is one of the unique webinars which we have been conducting so far. This is because air conditioning is one of the very important um, additional facility which we need to give to our buildings because of the climatic conditions in which we are. And it's not the conditioning, majorly it is the cooling. I welcome the speaker of today's webinar, Mr. Abhilash Shah, and I also at the onset thank him for accepting our invitation to speak on such an important subject of which, because energy conservation has become very important, but at the same time we need comfort. We don't want to compromise with the comfort. So in this condition, in these climatic conditions in which we are today, we need to have some modality by which we would have the comfort as well as we would be conserving the energy. And I thank you right at the onset that you have accepted to express your specialized views on this subject with our students, with our faculty members, as well as with large number of participants who are the architects as well as students of architecture. I also welcome Architect Modak, who is the service chair of the institution, and he is instrumental in bringing the latest technology to the college. He is also instrumental in upgrading our young faculty members of the college to the latest, not only to the latest technology, but giving them support to share their information with students. So he's always been there to uplift the quality of transmission of knowledge and services. So this is something very important. And I also uh, I'm happy to share that the entire building services team has been geared up and is taking so many webinars. This is one out of those. And Dr. Pratima Dhoke, who is Vice Principal of the college and is also actively involved in the services team. She, along with her team members who are there with you here. So I'm sure, Mr. Abhilash, you are going to have a wonderful session, and we all are going to enjoy this session and learn so much from you. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for adopting. So let's enjoy the entire hour which is going to be here now onwards. So welcome once again, all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for explaining the need to include energy efficiency in air conditioning in architectural curriculum and sensitizing students on the issue so that they can take it further in their professional practice. Next, I would like to call upon Architect Gurunath Modak, Building Services Chair at Srimati Manorma Bai Mundle College of Architecture and also Director at Design with Guru, to give a brief insight about the topic. I welcome you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am so happy that we are having this knowledge sharing session on the concept of energy efficiency and conservation, specifically with reference to the air conditioning. Friends, particularly in practice as well as in education, a common question is normally asked, "Ki, sir, if you want to do air conditioning, means what?" A common misconception is, so for example, if my room size is 10 feet by 10 feet by 10 feet, so it means I'll require 1 ton of the air conditioner. So somebody may say that inverter air conditioner, and believe me, a client of mine who is a doctor, once he said, "Sir, if we are going for a inverter air conditioner, then I am so happy. If electricity problem is there, so AC will run on inverter." Now, such a misconception is there amongst the people, unfortunately, amongst the students and co-professionals also. Of course, so many developments are taking place in the field of almost all aspects of architecture, in which air conditioning is one aspect of the building services. I always say that even if you design a beautiful envelope, unless and until it is made functional, it means what? Unless and until proper ventilation, proper air conditioning, lighting, plumbing, sanitary, it cannot be called as a live. So to make a interior space live, you do require a building services in which air conditioning, particularly in our area, plays a very important role. Friends, it's almost for so many years we are practicing and so many developments are taking place, right from window air conditioner to VRV system. And we always say ki are paisa bach jata hai, and then I always say ki where does the paisa bachta hai? So we have to understand ki how electricity is saved, paisa kahan bachta hai, what is the proper air conditioning system, and we as an architect, we have to decide at a first stage that this kind of air conditioning system is required. Doesn't matter, we do have HVAC consultants who will say कि इसकी capacity इतनी चाहिए, इतना चाहिए, it's okay. But the knowledge of air conditioning, particularly to architects, is a must, because sometimes ducts become eyesore. So I don't want such things to happen from my students. So I want everyone to get a proper knowledge. And Mr. Abhilash, I expect you to clear the concepts of basic, absolutely basics of air conditioning leading to the VRV, and there should not be any misconception, so that whenever we start designing, we will design appropriately by saving the electricity also. Thank you so much, and I hope we will have a wonderful knowledge sharing session, and I do expect from you clearance of all our doubts from you. Thank you so much. Thank you again to our principal. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Now I invite our today's key speaker, Mr. Abhilash Shah, to conduct the session.
Thank you very much, ma'am. First of all, I would like to thank SMMCA for the invitation. And I would like to personally thank Modak sir for inviting me for this session. And I will certainly try to clear all the doubts, and it would be a much more knowledgeable session for me as well, as all the architects are in the seminar, and we would discuss most of the points related to air conditioning. So I will share the screen. Just a minute. Is the screen visible?
Yeah.
So energy efficient air conditioning. So when we talk of energy efficiency, it is always about cost. So we will see how we can save the running cost and what impact it does to have on our initial cost as well. So first of all, what comes to mind when we think of a AC? We think of air, cooling, comfort, luxury, building services, global warming. But the most daunting question to everyone is about power consumption and energy efficiency. So we would go one by one to the points of power consumption and energy efficiency, looking at all the aspects of building services. Indian conditions. We all know what Indian conditions are there for air conditioning scenario. First of all, we have voltage fluctuation in our area. We have poor water quality for our water cooled ACs. Then we have urban heat effect. When we enter the city, the temperature is always on the rising part as compared to out of the city as well. So when we go near the outdoor unit, the temperature is always 3 to 4 degrees higher than the ambient conditions. So again, that goes to the machine duration. And then again, we are sitting in Nagpur, so a high ambient temperature is always a concern for this area. So what is HVAC basically? It is a full form of heating, ventilation and air conditioning. For heating means I need to heat the air within a space or heating through radiant panels. Ventilation, maintaining adequate mixture of gases in the air we breathe through natural or mechanical distribution. Ventilation is most commonly used in the basement areas of shopping malls or hospitals or other areas as well. Then air conditioning. Air conditioning is mostly a control mechanism to control the air temperature and the humidity through a dedicated system through ensuring occupant comfort. So this seminar is mostly focused on the air conditioning part, and we would not be looking at the heating and ventilation part in detail. So the common terminologies we use in air conditioning. I hope I'm not going too fast. So this is the basic cycle of how a refrigeration cycle, heating air conditioning cycle works. There are 4 major components to an air conditioning cycle: compressor, condenser, expansion valve and the evaporator. In common terms, the condenser is basically the outdoor unit of the machine, and the evaporator is basically the indoor unit, the split AC what we call, or anything else, any other indoor unit. So a basic cycle is my compressor pumps the high pressure gas to the condenser, then condenser gives a high pressure liquid to the expansion valve. Expansion valve may be a capillary or other electronic expansion valve. Then it sends the low pressure liquid to the evaporator, where the heat is transferred from inside air to refrigerant, thereby ensuring cooling. And in the condenser, at the same time, heat is transferred from refrigerant to outside air. So this cycle goes on, and that gives the actual air conditioning comfort to the occupant in the room. So other common terms are heat load. What is heat load basically? Heat load basically is the heat energy which needs to be removed from the room so as to give the proper temperature desired in the room. Tonnage is basically how much air flow needs to be given to the room so that the temperature is maintained at the desired or what the occupants desire. Then cubic feet per minute, CFM. When we talk about air conditioning, these two terms go hand in hand, tonnage and CFM. So CFM is basically the volume of airflow which needs to be delivered from the evaporator so that to ensure human comfort in the room. Air changes. air changes has been the most top thing in this current scenario of COVID. So air changes is basically how many times an hour my air in the room is getting changed. So has it been changed once, twice, thrice, or maybe 4 times in the room? And that is most important in these areas. Supplier and return air. So basically supplier is the one which is delivered from the evaporator to the room. And but how would a compressor know that the temperature has been attained in my room? It should have some sensor to it. So basically if I set the temperature 24 degrees Celsius, the conditioned air must reach the machine back to the at the same temperature so that it senses and switch off the compressor. So a basic cycle of supply and return air must go on. That is why most of times you might have observed that air conditioning guy asks you to keep a gap of 8 inches between the false ceiling and the split AC. Basically, that is the point where the sensor is kept so that the cycle of supply and return goes on. So, is my AC energy efficient? We always go to the retailer to buy a split AC of 1.5 ton or 2 ton, and he confuses us with a lot of terminologies. Like it is a 5-star AC, it is a 3-star AC, it has a better condenser, it has a copper and aluminum condenser. So what basically is that? So whenever you buy a AC, you see this kind of sticker on the AC. So what does it imply? So basically this is a AC of 5-star, which you can very clearly observe. It has a terminology written as EER, which is 3.51. EER is energy efficiency ratio, which is the ratio of cooling capacity and input power. So that is the ratio of 3.51, and Bureau of Energy Efficiency BEE has been launching some range of EER particularly every year so that the 3-star and 5-star range has been decided. If the category falls in 3.51, that means for that year, this is the manufacturing of 2015. In that year, 3.51 falls in the category of 5-star AC. It has been revising every year. So you might have observed when you bought a AC in, say, suppose this year, January or February, most of the 5-star ACs got converted into 3-star AC. So that was the sudden change which was observed due to change in EER. And one most important thing, there is not mentioned tonnage anywhere on the sticker. So if you want to see what is my tonnage of this machine, a 5SW18SAI, this is the model number. So if you want to check the tonnage of the machine, you just need to divide the cooling capacity, which is 5260 here, by 3500. 1 tonnage means the cooling capacity of 3500 watts. So 5260 divided by 3500 would give 1.5 ton. And again, one more thing, a variable speed compressor, it is mentioned as no. So it is not mentioned here that it is a fixed speed compressor machine. It is not an inverter or a variable speed machine. That means if my temperature goes to 24 degrees Celsius and it has achieved the desired temperature, my compressor would cut off. It would start again only when the temperature rises. There would be many on-off cycles of the compressor. And moreover, a condenser, my outdoor unit, are basically of 2 types: aluminium condenser and copper condenser. A copper condenser are of little bit a higher cost, but they are actually better than aluminum condensers in terms of duration of the machine, reliability of the machine. And also you might have heard about the word refrigerant, which is the gas or the liquid flowing through the air conditioning cycle. This is basically a R22 refrigerant machine. You would hear R32, R410, this kind of refrigerants. There are basically various norms of refrigerant and various norms of global warming as well. So currently all the split ACs are manufactured with R32 and R410A machines. So what is fixed speed compressor and what is variable speed compressor, that will be seeing in the next slide. So what is inverter technology? Basically my compressor is attached with a VFD, variable frequency drive, so as to modulate the cooling. So what my VFD does is it regulates the speed of the compressor so that it can variate, it can give the efficient cooling at a better time. So as you can see in this graph, the left side part is the conventional on-off compressor cycle, like my fixed speed machine, and the right side is the inverter machine, inverter compressor control. So basically, if you see the compressor working in the fixed speed machine, there are various on-off cycles to it. My compressor would go on, then it would go off, then it would go on, and it leads to a better it leads to inefficiency of the machine. And whereas what would happen if my compressor goes on, my temperature would go down, again my compressor would go off, again my temperature would go up. You would not feel very much comfortable in the room. But on the other side, when we see at inverter compressor, what happens is when I switch on the AC, my speed of the compressor goes high. First of all, there is a quick cooling. Then according to the requirement of the room, the compressor speed is adjusted so that when the temperature is very much maintained control there. So if my temperature is equal to 24 degrees Celsius, there will be not too many variations in the temperature, and it gives a better human comfort. And that is why the life of the machine also increases. And also, when there are many on-off cycles in the compressor, in case of a fixed speed machine, it would drive more starting current. So that is why, which would lead to higher power consumption. And in case of inverter machine, it would lead to a much lower power consumption as my on-off cycles are very less. And also, most of people think like when they have on-off compressor cycles, it would disturbs a lot. When more often when the outdoor is just behind your bedroom, so it gives a much disturbance to the customer. So I hope I am clear about the fixed speed machines and the inverter machines here. So again, speaking of fixed speed and inverter machines, we also have air cooled and water cooled. So like our normal split AC, which we install at home, has basically indoor unit, outdoor unit, and the refrigerant pipes going through it. So this is basically a air cooled machine. But in case of water cooled machine, we have a cooling tower. Then cooling tower is basically a heat rejection device which cools the temperature through a stream of water. Then we have a circuit of MS pipes. Then there are various options to be joined through a water cooled machine. We have a concealed type AC, high wall, basically split AC, cassette, ducted and floor mounted ACs. So this is with the cooling tower, there are MS pipes which goes to the outdoor unit, and then there's a refrigerant piping which goes to the indoor unit. So types of air conditioning units, I would just highlight what product do all the air conditioning units have. Window AC, split AC, cassette AC, portable AC, ducted and package units, VRF systems, and chillers. So what started with air conditioning industry was with window AC, and today we have a much more developed VRF systems and chillers and ducted. So a window AC would be a nominal capacity of 1 ton, and the chiller at max goes to a single machine of 4,000 tons. So that is the huge range which air conditioning can handle. First of all, I would go one by one with basically focusing on the commercial conditioning division aspect to it. We would be speaking of ducted, package, VRF and chillers. So normally all the things are mostly clear about cassette units and split ACs. So basically we would start with ducted and package units. So most of you might have seen a ducted and package unit with an open false ceiling or a blank false ceiling. So what is the benefit of ducted and package units? Ducted and package unit basically a machine of say suppose 8.5 ton or 11 ton, and the duct is passed through it, and it controls it gives the airflow to the entire area. So with a ducted and package unit, it gives a comprehensive cooling for larger areas. basically for applications like banquets. And with the equal division of airflow in every area of the room, it avoids hot and cold zones in the space. Like if suppose if I install a split AC in a larger space, a person sitting in one corner would feel too cold and the other person will feel too hot. But with a ductable AC, this problem is completely avoided. Then it gives a simplest look. Most of the architects are very much huge fans of ducted units. Basically, with a rectangular ducts, spiral ducts, round ducts, there's a lot more option to play with for the false ceiling and the interiors. So it gives a better aesthetics and a very nice interior to the rooms. Easy to control, no running around to operate. If suppose I install a 17-ton ducted unit, I would not go and start each and every machine. I just had to go at one place and start the coordinate remote. That's all I have to do. And it would cool the entire area of 17 ton, which is to be cooled. It is service friendly design with minimal disturbance in workspace. Say suppose you're going to a mall and you see a person repairing a machine there. It would look very weird. But with flow mounted package units, what you can do is it is installed in the service area, and then a person in the noon can go there and do the service of the machine and you would never know. So that is the beauty of package units which are flow mounted. Robust and reliable. A particular life of a ducted and package machine is close to 20 to 25 years. So you can imagine the cost which the customer is going to save. Ducted and package units again. So on the right side, it is a package unit which is basically flow mounted. This is a ductable AC. This in the middle is a concealed split, which comes in two capacities, 1.5 ton and 2 ton, and at the left side is a water-cooled ducted compressor. So these are the basic types of ductable and package units which we have, which is a fixed speed air-cooled ductable and package. We have water-cooled also, and moreover we have inverter ductable and package units also, which leads to much saving in power consumption. And then we have water-cooled mini DX series, which is mostly used in shopping malls and other multi-tenant applications. Then we have concealed split units, which we normally install in hotel applications as well as bedrooms. So what are flow mounted package AC? Basically, for example, a theater would have not much space to play in the sitting area. So what we do is when there's a projector room, both the sides of that room are vacant. So what we do is we keep our air conditioning machine in that area, and the duct goes inside. So it is very easy to service that, and also and easy to handle, easy to control. So my air-cooled package AC, what we would have is my indoor unit, that is basically this vertical machine, would have the blower, the evaporator coil, the filter, and the compressor. And my outdoor unit would have a condenser coil and only the propeller fan. And moreover, the beauty of it is there is no piping duration to it. My compressor and my indoor unit are very close in the same machine. So there is no piping duration, and hence the proximity of the evaporator to the compressor gives a better efficiency to the machine. That is why package ACs are most preferred in auditoriums, theater applications. Water-cooled package AC. Water-cooled package ACs can be used, for example, where there is water is plenty. First of all, units are pre-charged with refrigerant, and it is basically a single standing machine which has all the components: filter, blower, evaporator coil, compressor, and water-cooled condenser. Only this machine would be directly connected to my cooling tower. So water-cooled machines, water being a superior cooling medium as compared to air-cooled machine, water-cooled machines are obviously with higher efficiency, and it would give lower power consumption. So, and it has a long life as compared to air-cooled machines. So if suppose you are giving a air conditioning machine to an area where there is a lot of dust, where there's a lot of cement factories are there in Vidarbha area. So in that case, water-cooled package ACs are much more preferable as compared to air-cooled package AC. Ductable units which are ceiling suspended. So basically in hotel applications where I don't have much of a floor space and which is again very costly. So I can install a machine which can be accessed through the ceiling. Only thing I would require a trap door in that for service point of view. My ductable machine indoor unit would cater to evaporator, blower and filter, and my outdoor unit would have compressor, condenser and a propeller fan. Watercooled ductable AC. It is perfectly suited for areas with multiple tenants. For example, shopping malls, office complexes, service apartments. And then what are the highlights of watercooled ductable AC? There is like suppose I have multiple tenants. The watercooled ductable unit is not a centralized system. It can be the billing of that unit would cater to that person only. An investment in phased manner. There is no need to block a capital of 100 tons where the occupancy is only required of 70 tons. You can go it phase by phase. And there is DSW mini series. For smaller applications, we have 1.5 ton, 2 ton and 2.5 ton ACs also which can be given. So what is basically a water-cooled system concept? So here's a basic comparison between a chiller system and a water-cooled DX system. So if suppose the total requirement as per area is 100 tons, but the occupancy is only 70% at that time. So what the builder can do is he can only cater for 70% at that time, and if required, he can add it again in a water-cooled DX system. But in case of a chiller system, he has to buy the complete unit of 100 tons in the first go, and he has to pay for that initial cost at the very beginning of starting a mall. So in case of malls, there's a issue where occupied space is very small initially and then it increases. So at that period, water-cooled DX system very much is required. So coming to the architect's role in ducting air conditioning, what role the architect has to play? First of all, a trapdoor design is the must in case of ducting air conditioning. If a trapdoor is not given properly, first of all, it won't look good, and other point, the service points would be very much difficult to handle. So it has to be a very much catered area. Then coordination of ducting and machine locations with other services. So there's firefighting, there is other services in the ceiling as well. How my ducting is going to move and what areas to be cooled as such. We are there to help, but architect finally has to decide what locations and how the ducting will go and how it has to be matched with other services so that the entire process is hassle free. Enhancing the ceiling design with selection of appropriate grills. So this, like I said earlier, architect has a very crucial part to play in ducting air conditioning to set the interiors, and it is a favorite product of most of the architects. So because there's a lot to play, it does not only have the rectangular grills, it have eyeball diffusers, it have rectangular diffusers, it has grills. So a ceiling design can be suited as per the architect's requirement, as per the customer's requirement. So these are the basically 3 points where the architects need to focus, and architect plays a major role in this case. So I hope I was clear about ductile and package units. So now I would go about VRF systems. So what are VRF systems? VRF system is basically variable refrigerant flow systems. First of all, in the VRF terminology, we usually call it in HP. 1 HP is equal to 0.8 tons. This is basically a top discharge outdoor unit of VRF, which gives efficiency, versatility, flexibility, modernity for a unit to play. It is a complete package that offers the best of all the worlds, you say. So first of all, the major benefit of VRF is it gives 100% capacity at 43 degrees Celsius. So what this point basically means is that if I install a 2-ton machine, a 2-ton split AC, which has a single indoor and single outdoor unit, what I would do is at 35 degrees Celsius, my machine would give 2-ton, but after that, a individual split AC machine would derate. It would give 1.8, 1.7, 1.5. and gives less cooling and increased power consumption. That is why we have most of the time observed that our light bill in summer goes on a rise. So what VRF does is it is designed at 43 degrees Celsius. Up to 43 degrees Celsius, my 2-ton machine would not derate, and after that the machine would derate and it would give non-stop cooling at 56 degrees Celsius and would not trip up to 56. So it's a huge range of outdoor units in VRF. It starts from 7 HP up to 112 HP single circuit. Then and it gives a high efficiency at high ambient conditions. And as I said, there was a voltage fluctuation problem in India as well. So we are designed to cater a high voltage range from 320 volts to 460 volts. There's a lot of indoor units to choose from, and it has a compatibility with AHUs, air handling units as well. And it can be controlled through a mobile app, as well as in case of multiple tenants, we have a software which gives a multi-user application. So there are basically two types of VRF. This one is a top discharge model and this is a side discharge model. So basically top discharge means the top portion is basically the one which blows the hot air, and here it is a side discharge which is used for smaller applications, like in case of high-rise buildings and other smaller flats which we need to install 3 to 4 ACs. So this is the basic IDU range which a VRF can handle. So starting from concealed splits, treated fresh air units, floor mounted heat recovery units. So it goes up to anything and anything you name in the air conditioning field. So there are basic normal units of high wall and large cassettes, but I want to majorly highlight 2 points. Basically a one-way cassette unit and a two-way cassette unit, which you can see here. These are the units which we can install only with VRF, and also one-way cassettes look very much nice normally for room applications. Like suppose if you don't want to install the high wall machine on the wall, you can very well install a one-way cassette AC in the ceiling as well. If it is a one-way, you can install it in the one corner. If it is two-way cassette, you can install it in the middle and all the areas can be used. Also, there are other machines which are treated fresh air units and heat recovery units, which I will talk about later when I talk about most of the COVID-19 perspective. So there are basically more than 100 types of indoor units to choose from in VRF. So how does a VRF systems function? This is basically outdoor units of, say, suppose 28 HP, which is close to 22 tons. And the white line that you can see, is basically a copper piping which is flowing through all the areas. I can install high wall, four-way cassettes, one-way cassettes, and two-way cassette units. So what happens is, if suppose a person sitting in a machine with a two-way cassette would set the temperature of 24 degrees Celsius, it would give the sensor to the outdoor unit. Only that much of refrigerant will flow through this entire pipeline, and only this machine can work. So that is the beauty of VRF, that you can handle each required temperature in each separate room. If suppose the person sitting in a ductable IDU room requires a temperature of 24 degrees Celsius, it can be done at the same time when a person sitting in two-way cassette requires a temperature of 28 degrees Celsius. So that flexibility VRF gives to the occupant. These are some photographs of basically a VRF outdoor unit, what it looks like when we install it at the terrace of a building. And also when we connect this all the machines, you can see these branches. These branches are basically joined through a copper joints which are called ref nets. This is a particular photo of a ref net, copper joint ref net. So the pipe will go straight, and there again is a branch which is this branch, and it would be connected to a ductable IDU or a concealed split or any indoor unit you say. So what are the unique features of VRF high ambient performance? So, what is the basic comparison between a VRF and the regular machine? As I said earlier, works at an actual capacity of 43 degrees Celsius, and whereas the regular machine is designed at only at 35 degrees Celsius. As you can see in this graph, a normal machine would start derating after 35 degrees Celsius only, and after 43 it would derate a lot and start working at 48. But in case of VRF, up to 43 the machine does not derate. It gives complete capacity up to 43, and after that the machine will derate and thereby increasing power consumption, but it can work up to 56 degrees Celsius. In high ambient conditions we go as good as 49-50 sometimes. So thereby the power consumption of the customer is much more reduced when we go for VRF as compared to a regular machine. Regular machine, by regular machine I mean a inverter 5-star split AC also. It is at 35 degrees Celsius only, whereas a VRF is at 43 degrees Celsius. So increasing machine duration leads to increasing power consumption, as I explained. So that a VRF would give much more lower cost, leading to a much more lower power consumption. And for a regular machine, the power consumption would increase, thereby increasing the cost of the customer. There's a basic question which comes for VRF. What if my one machine malfunctions? What is all the systems are connected together? What would happen if my one IDU or my one ODU does not work? So in case of a regular machine, what happens is if my one unit has to be serviced or one machine goes wrong, all my other machines goes for a toss. My entire circuit is breakdown. But in case of VRF, what happens is there's a function called as IDU isolation function. I can only separate that IDU from all the other indoors, and my entire system can work very much fine. Also, if suppose my outdoor unit does not work, what would happen? So in case of every outdoor unit, there are multiple backups of compressor as well. If anything goes wrong with my one compressor, my other compressor can very much handle it. So can VRF handle diverse loads? If suppose this entire building is a requirement of 100 tons and the occupancy say was of only these 2 rooms, can VRF will work to its full capacity? The answer is no. The VRF would only work only what is the requirement of that room. If suppose these 2 rooms forms a capacity of 4 tons or 6 tons load, my VRF would only operate for that much of load. So how does it do that? My VRF outdoor has an accumulator. The refrigerant, say suppose 100 kgs I have filled up a refrigerant in the entire system of VRF. If suppose only 6 to 7 kg is required, all the other refrigerant load would go to the accumulator and accumulate there, and only 6 to 7 kgs would flow the entire system. So accumulator having in a VRF is a must, and then only can handle diverse loads. So also capable of handling diverse load conditions, there's a factor called diversity in VRF, which you would most listen from air conditioning guys. So what basically is diversity? If suppose I am in a requirement of 6 tons of load, what air conditioning guy would do is he would install you 6 tons of indoor, but he would only install 4.5 tons of outdoor. The ratio of 6 by 4.5 is basically the diversity of that VRF system. There is always a possibility that all my machines would not be running at all the time. So why should I pay the initial cost of 6 tons of AC when my requirement is only 4.5 for most of the times? So in that case of diversity is always considered depending on the application, whether it's a hospital, whether it's a hotel, or whether it's a house. So diversity application changes for other conditions as well. And it can handle long piping distances, and VRF can handle low load as low as 5% of total connected capacity. Long piping distance in VRF systems. VRF systems for a high-rise building are a very beautiful application so that it does not spoil the entire exterior of the building. Basically, a height difference between my 2 RDUs is up to 40 meters. My actual height difference between IDU and ODU is up to 90 meters, and my actual pipe length between my first indoor and my and my last outdoor is basically 180 meters. Uh, just a minute. Just a minute, excuse me, please. Yeah, am I audible? Just a minute, I will share the screen. Long piping distance in VRF systems. So the beauty of VRF is the elevation between ODU and IDU. It can go up to maximum 90 meters, and my overall piping length can handle a total length of 1 kilometer. That is the most important feature of VRF, so that your exterior does not go for a toss in a high-rise building. So what is the operating voltage range in VRF? It is 320 to 460 volts as compared to normal range of 380 to 415 volt. Normally, in case of voltage fluctuations, most of the machines trip, and most of the machines go for a toss. They need requirement. They need repairing, and in that case, so a VRF can handle a huge voltage range of 320 volt to 460 volt. A wide operating voltage range handles the fluctuations, which avoids the tripping of machines. And what are the wide range of controllers which a VRF can use? There are standard of corded and cordless controllers, but you can also group various machines together, so has to have a group controller, and also you can observe what machines are working and what machines are switched off through a PC monitoring system. Also, some companies do have a remote monitoring system. If suppose installment is of, say, suppose 1000 HP or 1500 HP, a person sitting in far off in Mumbai or in, say, Chennai can have a look at your machine through internet connectivity and observe what machine is working and how the machines are working fine. So it is basically a very unique feature of remote monitoring system. Then we have tenant billing systems and data concentrator, where we can collect the data from for a month, and we can observe which machines are used at what times generally, and how you can handle the power consumption of the entire working space. So that was about chillers. So going to chillers. Chillers have a capacity ranging from 10 ton to 4000 TR. So a very huge range of chillers can be installed, starting from a small process chiller from a small MRI machine to a 4000 ton project for a huge application. In case of the main features of this chillers are, it exceeds the international and Indian energy standards. If you talk about chiller, these are the most energy efficient machines. It is available in air cooled as well as water cooled, and it is available in it has a BMS and remote monitoring system, and also these are customized for each project. So for example, if I'm in a requirement of 120 tons and there is a standard model of 100 tons and 140 tons, a person has to buy 140 tons when there is no requirement of that. A chiller can be designed to suit the application of 120 tons only as per the customer's requirement. The latest innovations in chiller are inverter scroll chillers, basically with inverter compressors. There are oil-free turbocore chillers. Oil-free turbocore chiller means the compressor would have no oil in that, and it would work only through magnetic levitation. The starting current of this chiller is only 2 amperes. So you can imagine the power consumption which we could save in oil-free turbocore chillers. And the configured series chillers are basically the customized chillers which the company can make. So this was basically of chillers, and this is the most talk about topic in the current scenario: air conditioning systems and COVID-19. This was the most daunting question when the lockdown happened. Is my air conditioning safe to use? So the answer to it is yes, absolutely. The reason behind that is the air conditioning controls both temperature and humidity. So thereby it increases the resistance to infection for the occupant and thereby ensuring human comfort. So what are the basic precautions we need to take? The basic precautions which need to be taken by the customer in the areas, if we go to a movie theater, if we go to the shopping mall, if we go to the food court or restaurants, is basically the temperature should be maintained between 26 to 30 degrees Celsius. The humidity should be maintained above 50 degrees Celsius. In some cases, you might have observed that some person saying you should keep a bowl of water in the room so that it maintains the humidity in case of dry conditions. Also, timing cleaning of filters is very much important, which is the most negligible concept in air conditioning field is the timely cleaning of filters. So that is very much important in case of this scenario. Also, there's something called as fresh air, which is the most talked about topic. In case of systems of AHUs or air conditioning unit, where does the fresh air comes from? Normally, there is a machine called as treated fresh air unit, which can be installed. It takes the fresh air through the duct from the outside, and it reduces the temperature of it, and it passes through that particular shop or that particular room. So this fresh air duct can be very well incorporated in the current existing machines, also as well as the new machines, so that the fresh air component needs to be added, which was mostly neglected by the air conditioning guys as well as the customers. So air condition, what fresh air would do is it would basically increase the air changes in that room, so that the fresh air is maintained and there's proper ventilation in that room. Also, with rooms, the viruses is mostly observed in toilets. So, with the toilet exhaust service, which we can install, what happens is you can install toilet exhaust fan through the duct, and this foul smell or other gases can be exhausted through this machine through a toilet exhaust fan. These basic two changes to a current design which we are doing right now, and which is very small changes but makes a lot of impact. So I hope I was very much clear in all the explaining all the things. I'd be most happy to answer most of the questions. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge gained through your experience in the field, and you have given us a huge insight regarding VRF as well as energy conservation by using VRF systems, and also the most hot topic which is going on regarding COVID-19. You have given us a good insight on that. Now I would like to thank him, and the session will not be complete without answering some of the burning questions. For that, I would like to invite Dr. Pratima Dhoke to conduct the question answer session.
Thank you, Anuradha. I would like the participants to float more questions. The first question to you, Abhilash, is: can fresh air be induced in VRV?
Yeah. So the fresh air can very well be induced in VRV through a mechanism called as treated fresh air unit. And what and also if suppose if I install a split AC in my room, the fresh air normally is inducted through a opening of openings and opening of doors. But for a specialized mechanism, what I can do is I can install a treated fresh air unit, and a small pipe or a small duct can be used through which a fresh air unit can be installed.
Okay. The next question is: you have already explained so many advantages of VRV. but why it is not popular?
Why it is not popular?
Popular.
Okay. Uh, Basically, honestly speaking, VRV with other applications like that is ducted inverter, there is fixed speed ducted, there is package units, and there is chillers. A normal application would go for VRF only when there is a lot of diversity involved, like in case of a hotel or a hospital or something like that. Also, there are other applications which are ducted and chillers as well. In case of VRV, with the inverter machine, a lot of flexibility involved. When I want to use inverter one-way cassettes and two-way cassettes, VRF is very much popular. But wherever there is a requirement of large space, a single large space area, or basically go advised to go for a ducted machine or a chiller machine. So depending on application, a VRF or a chiller can be used. So that is why VRF is not some popular in mostly in some areas of industrial applications, but in case of comfort applications, it is very much popular.
Okay. The next question is there any remedy for leakage of water in cassette type of air conditioning during rainy season when the humidity is very high? Any remedy for leakage of water in cassette
Okay.
type of air conditioning?
Uh, in case of water leakage, what is usually observed in cassette ACs, the mostly prominent found application is not very well installed drain pipes and the improper insulation done on the drain pipes and the copper piping. So what happens in case of rainy season or when the humidity is high, the thermal insulation goes for a toss. There is condensation of water piping in that, and then it leakages through the cassette AC. So if the insulation is done properly, I don't think any water leakage would be observed through that cassette AC.
Okay, I think it answers the question. The next question is, in energy efficient air conditioning, which are the specific equipments which save energy?
Specific equipments which save energy. So basically, which saves energy are the most applications which you install which have inverter compressors. For a smaller application of say suppose 1.5 or 2 ton, we can have a smaller 5-star inverter split AC. For larger application, say suppose of 200 tons or 300 tons, we have oil-free turbo coach chillers, which has basically has no oil and it gives a very less power consumption. And for diverse loads, we can handle VRF. So it gives a diverse application, saving the cost for the customer.
Okay. The next question is, if ERV is air energy efficient, how much do we save money in terms of rupees and percentage?
Sorry, ma'am, can you please repeat your question?
Yeah, you are saying that VRV is energy efficient. Then kindly specify like how much money we save in terms of rupees and percentage.
Okay. First of all, the cost for VRV would depend on the indoor unit of that application. So say suppose if it indoor unit is AHU or a ductable, the cost would increase, and if it is a split AC, the cost would slightly go down. So my total saving cost of that machine would depend on the actual running capacity of that VRF. So if suppose it is a hotel application, it would save somewhere different. If it is a hospital application or a banquet application, the saving would be different. But on an average, the saving is mostly around 15-20%.
Uh, it is an assumption that we assume that for a room of 10 feet by 10 feet by 10 feet, we normally require 1 ton of air conditioning. So is it correct assumption, or is there any other thumb rule for it?
Uh, No, ma'am. Actually, it is a very wrong misconception, basically started by the retailers in the air conditioning industry when they ask for what is the room size of the room. So basically, if it is a 10 feet by 10 feet and with a 10 feet height, so 1 ton is okay for size areas. Area is one factor when we consider for air conditioning, but this basically there are also various heat loads which add to the air conditioning as well. One is the occupancy of that room, other is the glass, the facing of that room, which is the direction, then the glass heat load, and also all the factors need to be considered when we decide for air conditioning. For smaller applications of 1 ton or 1.5 ton, that is okay for some times, but for larger applications, when we design the banquet and also other, suppose for example banquets, the size of the room matters a lot, but also the occupancy and the purpose of that application also is various change. So in that scenario, only the size of the room doesn't matter at all. All the other factors needs to be catered together to decide what is the air conditioning tonnage and CFM needs to be given. Say suppose for example electrical panel room, you say it is a very small room of suppose 50 square feet, but sometimes the air conditioning load required in that panel room is close to 20 tons or 30 tons, because the heat machine which is kept in that room gives a lot of heat, so that needs to be catered. So that electrical panels and all the heat loads of that room need to be catered for that area.
Okay, it was explained very nicely in simple terms. So all were the questions. Any questions from the panel? Okay, sir, do you have any question? Yes. Yes, sir, please. Sir, unmute yourself.
So if I use a 1.5 ton AC in office for 8 hours, how much units or how much electricity normally it consumes?
Okay. So basically there are two types of 1.5 ton. If I say suppose if you use a 3-star inverter AC of 1.5 ton, it would consume close to 0.8 kilowatt per ton for example approximately an hour. It also depends on if it is running continuously for 8 hours. So what would happen is basically the temperature would attain for 24 degrees Celsius, and most of the times the compressor would be running at a lower capacity. The switching is not on and off there. So 0.8, 0.7, it was between the range of 0.7 to 0.9 kilowatt only. The capacity would not increase as there is no switch on switch off cycles.
So it is also said that hereafter the manufacturers have stopped producing the air conditioners whose minimum temperature goes beyond 20 degrees centigrade in the interest of the environment of the world as such. Is it true?
It is not true as yet, because there are deliberations going on in that. Only the factory setting is of 24 degrees Celsius. It can go below as low as 17 degrees Celsius as of now, but with the government norms much more getting strict in the air conditioning factor, so it can go, the minimum can be 20 or 21 degrees Celsius considering that. But ideally, it should be kept between 24 to 28 in the current scenario.
Thank you, Abhilash. Over to you, Anuradha, for the next proceedings.
I would like Architect Rashmi Tijare to give the official vote of thanks.
Kindly and sorry for that. Thank you, Anuradha. Dear Mr. Abhilash Shah, Senior Executive Sales at Blue Star Limited, Nagpur, respected Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev Madam, Principal SMMCA. It is my privilege to have been asked to propose a formal vote of thanks for this webinar. I, Architect Rashmi Tijare, on behalf of Srimati Manorama Bai Mundle, College of Architecture, Nagpur, extend my heartfelt thanks to our guest, Mr. Abhilash Shah, who besides his busy schedule spared time for us and gave insightful talk on energy efficiency and air conditioning. He gave us insight right from VRV to chillers, from COVID scenario to use of ACs and such. Thank you, Abhilash. I would also like to thank Architect Gurunath Modak, who facilitated such webinar for us. Thank you, sir. I wish to express my gratitude to our principal madam, Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev, for encouraging us to conduct this webinar. Thank you, ma'am. I would also like to congratulate Architect Anuradha Bhute for successfully conducting this event. Thank you, Anuradha. A special thanks for Pratima Dhoke ma'am for handling question and answer session efficiently. I wish to thank Architect Mrunmayee Tiwari and Architect Priyanka Sambre, who have been working behind the screen tirelessly. Thank you, Mrunmayee and Priyanka. A special thanks to our technical support, Architect Sneha Mandekar and Architect Vaijayanti Yadav. And last but not the least, a big thanks to you, our audience and attendees, without whom this webinar would not have been a success. Thank you all. With this, I declare the closure of this fruitful webinar. Thank you all. Thanks.
Thank you.